Hello and welcome back to the studio session. I am joined by Eamon Ryan, the Teachta Dála of the Dáil Éireann, one of the houses of the Irish legislature. As Melinda just mentioned, he's been Minister of the Environment, Climate and Communications and Minister for Transport since June of 2020. He's also been head of the Green Party in Ireland since May of 2011. Welcome, Eamon Ryan.
Thank you very much indeed. Thrilled to be here.
What a pleasure it is to have you today. Now, Ireland took over presidency of the North Seas Energy Corporation this year, following Belgium in 2021 and Germany in 2020. I wonder, speaking in that capacity, if you can give us a broad perspective of the key role of offshore wind energy production in driving European climate goals.
Okay. North Seas Energy Corporation started about 10 years ago. And the seas is an important word. It's the North Sea, but going into the Celtic Sea, the Irish Sea, into the Atlantic. And it's recognising that that's our largest renewable resource in this part of Europe. And if we can tap into that, that's one of the ways we can switch off our dependency on Russian coal, oil and gas. And the idea is, being there for some 10 years and so on, is to think of it as a supergrid. To design it from the top down, thinking, how do we really design this in a way that's lowest cost, best for the environment and best for local communities? And I see it. This is the peace project of our time. This is the answer to the Putin government that we don't need that alternative. We have our own power here. We've already started. A lot of countries are already building offshore wind out in the seas. We've learned a lot. The price has come down a lot in the last 5 to 6 years. It's economic. The real key thing is getting the grid. So how you bring the power ashore, how you reduce the amount of times you have to come ashore, how you share and trade power in a clever way so that you can use the interconnection between countries as a way of picking up the wind power on the way. So this cooperation is now going to accelerate. Everything is in response to this crisis. What we're going to have to do is work collectively, how we design where we get the wind from, optimizing the environment, how we design the grid to move that around, and how we share it, and how we agree to trade it and share it. And lastly, I think probably the most urgent thing we need to do in this cooperation, and the same thing will be happening in the Baltic, the same thing will be happening in the Mediterranean, but we also have to look at how do we coordinate how we get shipping for this, how we get the turbines built. It is a wartime situation where we have to build at scale and at speed. And I think it's collaboration on that now is what the North Seas Energy Ministers are going to work on and do.
So how do we do that? How can we make this coordinated? How can we take advantage of offshore energy resources in a coordinated way?
Well, I think firstly, it is working with the industry. As I said, they've learned a lot in the last 5-10 years as to how to do it. But it's a precarious industry. For a lot of them, the margins are very tight, the cost of steel is very high, the planning and the permitting system is really uncertain. It takes often 10 years to get a project, if you're lucky, from start to finish. So one of the things we need to do is reduce some of those risks, reduce some of that cost. Working collaboratively so that actually we can say to those companies, we know you're going to need an order of this amount, huge amount of production. And can we manage that in the way, over the next decade, 2 decades, in an organised, steady stream way where some of the risks are taken out, where some of the costs come down? The second thing I think critically we need to do, it's also about hydrogen and about ammonia and how, not just how do we move electricity, but how do we convert some of that power to hydrogen or to green hydrogen or ammonia and ship that between different countries. So it's not just about the electricity power system, it's also about the fuel system, new hydrogen fuel system. And I've just come from a meeting with the German government in terms of can we sit down and agree how we would do this, as they're doing with various different countries. So it's that level of cooperation. And the third thing, the key thing on this, if this is a new supergrid, if we're really thinking about the energy system of the future, it has to be hyper efficient. And a lot of this depends on, it's like a dance. It's a dance between variable supply and variable demand. That's the industrial revolution of our time. It involves digital technologies as well as clean air technologies. Critical to it is public trust, because what we will need to do is develop systems where we're switching things on and off, depending on where the wind is or how strong it is at any one time. And even as the weather systems come across Europe, starting in the Atlantic, working its way over the UK, into the North Sea, over into the Baltic, that we ship demands and we balance and manage demand as we follow the weather system across the continent. Now, I know that sounds science fiction, that sounds really big and bold, but that's what's going to happen, because that is the better energy system, that's the secure energy system, that's this new balancing system which replaces the expensive, insecure and dirty fossil fuels.
It does sound big, it does sound bold, it is going to take a lot of public support, and my last question to you today would be, what might get in our way? What's going to be the biggest thing that stays between us and success?
I think that public support is the key issue. Like we all know, in countries across Europe, we haven't been able to build grid across our countries. It's not been easy getting permitting for any project. If we're to make the planning system quicker, which is one of the key obstacles, if we're to get some of the measures to really push and develop the industries here, we need public support. And that comes down to, we were chatting earlier on about telling stories. This is the key story we have to tell, that belongs to us, we the people. This has an advantage in that we're relying on our local power supplies. We've seen the disadvantage on being dependent on somewhere else. This is our power. This has to be shared in a way that is part of a just transition. It has to be where we get community benefit and community involvement. And we also tell this story in a way that it's not just all about megawatts and grid systems, but it's speaking to the heart, that this is the peace project of our time. This is what gives our children and their children a secure, stable future, not just in terms of energy, but also in climate. This is one of the big projects that we can do to stop the world burning. And to tell that, not in a way we're pointing at people and telling them what to do or putting shame or guilt on them, but raising their hearts with a sense of hope and expectation that there's an alternative, that it's more socially progressive, it supports democratic systems, as Robert Habeck said earlier on today, and it gives us the energy that powers everything, heats our homes, drives our cars and our electric bikes, allows our industry flourish. It's that story we have to tell. It's a big story, but we shouldn't be afraid to go big, because that's what we're going to have to do to replace all those fossil fuels.
Thank you so much, Eamon Ryan. It's true, this is a big story, but it's the right story. It's a good story to be telling. Thank you so much for joining me here in our studio session.